Hello and welcome to Impact the Borough, a podcast from the Greensboro Chamber of Commerce. I'm Brent Christensen, President and CEO of the Greensboro Chamber of Commerce. Each week, a Chamber staff member will sit down with a guest to discuss what we're doing to start and grow businesses, create quality jobs, develop our workforce, and tell the inspiring story of Greensboro to the world. This podcast is brought to you by Truliant Federal Credit Union, a modern, mission-driven financial institution focused on the needs of its members, the businesses it serves, and our community. With 5 locations in Guilford County, including a dedicated commercial lending office at Friendly Center and a highly rated mobile banking app, Truliant makes it their business to help you grow yours. Visit Truliant.org for more information.
Thank you, Brent. I'm Tracy Myers, the EVP of Member Engagement for the Greensboro Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to today's edition of our podcast, Impact the Borough. In honor of MedWeek, we are so excited to celebrate an announcement for a new program tied to our Minority Business Accelerator. Today, I have 3 wonderful folks joining me. Niketa Greene is our Vice President of Leadership and Diversity and Inclusion for the Greensboro Chamber of Commerce. Hi, Niketa.
Hi, Tracy.
Welcome. We also have Lou Anne Flanders-Stec, our EVP of Entrepreneurship with Launch Greensboro, which is the entrepreneurial arm of the Greensboro Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for joining us today, Lou Anne.
Happy to be here, Tracy. Thanks for including us.
Thank you. And it is my pleasure to introduce our community to Bernard Johnson, who is the Director of Programs for Interise.
Good afternoon. Excited to be a part of the call. Thank you for welcoming me.
Thank you, Bernard. And so what I'd like to do first is go through our list of guests and have them tell you a little bit about themselves. And I'll start with Niketa, but before Niketa introduces herself, we want to extend a congratulations. Niketa has been with the Chamber of Commerce as our Program Director for Leadership Greensboro and has done an amazing job with that program. And she has been promoted to the role of VP Leadership, Diversity, and Inclusion. So Niketa, please introduce yourself to everybody and tell a little bit about your background.
Thank you, Tracy. Yes, I'm very excited about this new role and this new opportunity to expand my impact with our businesses, especially our minority-owned businesses. I've been with the Chamber for 3 years, and prior to that, I've always been in a capacity where I've been able to help either individuals or organizations transform. So this is a unique opportunity for me to expand that. I've also been very close to entrepreneurship in my family, and that I have 4 family members who have been long-term entrepreneurs, some employer-based, some sole proprietors. So I'm very passionate about minority-owned businesses, small businesses, and I'm excited about this opportunity.
Excellent. Thank you, Niketa. We're very excited about you working with the MBA companies. And we know that this is going to be a new partnership with Launch Greensboro. Lou Anne, would you tell us a little bit about your background and also about Launch and the connection between the MBA and Launch Greensboro?
Great, thank you. And yes, so Launch Greensboro is, as Tracy said, the entrepreneurship arm of the Greensboro Chamber of Commerce. And we have been working with entrepreneurs for many years. The Chamber has supported entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship in our community for close to 20 years. And a very concerted effort was culminated about 4.5 years ago when I started. And we really have begun developing programs that are truly around building a pipeline of entrepreneurs that have ideas to sustainable businesses. And so this new partnership with the Minority Business Accelerator and the member engagement team to continue that pipeline build from not just small business to large and scalable businesses is really exciting to us, and especially this partnership with Bernard and Interise. My background is varied from financial planning and management in manufacturing businesses to a family-owned business to academia. But suffice it to say, I've spent the last over 20 years working with entrepreneurs, starting, building, and growing businesses, both from a programmatic, consultancy, employee, and funding standpoint.
Excellent. Thank you, Lou Anne. And Niketa, before we do the intro into Bernard and Interise, let's talk just a little bit about the Minority Business Accelerator and its history. So if you could just tell us a little bit about how it got started, where it got started, and where it's at today.
Okay. So we began the Minority Business Accelerator here about 3 years ago. We were on an inner city visit to Chattanooga, Tennessee, where we learned about their similar program, their Accelerator Program. And we brought that knowledge back to Greensboro and formed a task force of people who were really passionate about accelerating and growing the minority business sector here. And we formed the current iteration of the Minority Business Accelerator. And we've had some good wins and made some great connections for our companies since, and generated over $4 million in revenue in just 3 years for our minority businesses.
Awesome. And I know in the past year that I've been here with the Chamber working with the Minority Business Accelerator has been enlightening. It's been wonderful work. I think the intent with the program is that when it started out, we were very focused on making strategic introductions to the community. So it was about connecting companies that had the skill set and the scalability to larger corporations in town and making those connections. And that, I think, is what has led to those successful connections and being able to bring in that revenue. And I think the timing is prime for us to expand out into the education side. And that is definitely where Launch has its strength, is building that wraparound for those partner companies and really giving them that education piece that they need. So I think that is how we landed on doing some searches. Lou Anne, I remember we were in a conversation a while back around strategic direction and making pathways and connecting that pipeline. And so we started to do some research, and we very quickly found a program that we absolutely loved in Greenville. At about the same time that I got a phone call from Bernard about Interise, and that was that same program. And sometimes those things just happen at the same time, and that lets you know that it's definitely something you need to look at. So Bernard, will you tell everybody just a little bit about Interise and about the Streetwise MBA program?
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Thank you, Tracy. Interise is a national nonprofit that is headquartered in Boston, Massachusetts. And over the past 16 years, our mission has been intentionally driven by working to scale established small business owners that are owned and operated in low to moderate income communities. And because of that, our programs are always going to have a heavy focus on business owners that are minority. The data continues to show us the wide disparity as it relates to the wealth gap, and also for scaling business owners that are minority. And so what we really focused on is working with our partners like Greensboro to identify different ways to create pathways for those local business owners to not only scale effectively, but to also be a part of that greater ecosystem. And in doing so, what we've been able to see is a true historical rate of jobs created, jobs retained, revenue growth numbers, and most importantly, we're seeing some of the foundation as it relates to identifying different ways to solve for the wealth gap as it relates to entrepreneurship.
Bernard, I know one of the things that I was very impressed with as we were researching Interise was some of the impact numbers. We are in year 3 of our 5-year long-range plan, which is our Grow strategic plan. 2 very important metrics that we track for Grow is revenue created by the Minority Business Accelerator. We also look very closely at job creation and retention. Can you share a little bit from your impact reports on those metrics?
Absolutely. Thank you, Tracy. As you noted, one of the things that's important for these business owners is to be able to show that growth in real time and over time. And we do an impact report on an annual basis. And so last year, although there was quite a bit of dialogue in the media around business owners having a surplus of opportunities for jobs. Even in that environment, our business owners created jobs at about 4 times the rate of the private sector, with an average salary right around 3% higher than the national average. And most importantly, 60% of those new employees were hired locally. On top of that, when we start to talk about increases as it relates to bottom line and revenue, a program that is always going to be focused and centered around minority entrepreneurships, those businesses are at the most highest end of our revenue growth rates year to year. And last year, those business owners came in at the average revenue growth right around 77% per business. And to break it down into numbers, business owners that entered into our program, as I mentioned, are likely to add at least 1 to 3 FTEs, okay? On top of that, when we looked at our entire network, the average revenue growth was right around 63%. And again, the minority firms achieved a higher rate, right around 77%. And so some of the things that we'll be focusing on here in Greensboro are no different than we do with some of the other chambers that we've partnered with, like the Greenville Chamber of Commerce, like the Northern Kentucky Greater Cincinnati African American Chamber of Commerce up in Cincinnati, Ohio. All of these chambers have a really true interest in making sure that minority business owners achieve greater degrees of success by way of providing them the right tools, resources, and networks to leverage opportunities in real time and over time. So we're excited to be able to offer this program with the Greensboro MBA and Launch Greensboro. It's a new market for us, and we're really excited to get started.
Thank you, Bernard. We're excited too. Lou Anne, can you talk a little bit about where the Interise program fits within the pipeline that exists today with Launch and with the Chamber?
Yes, so the pipeline build that we do, like I mentioned, we really focus on that in our programming. So from that perspective, we have ideation sessions that we do with the community. So if you're an entrepreneur that's got an idea, we'd love to meet with you and bring together a group of folks that provide feedback. Additionally, we have boot camps that help really focus entrepreneurs on understanding who their customer is and around the customer discovery concept. We also have our Accelerator program called Launch Lab. And so our Launch Lab program is run in 2 cohorts, our 101 cohort and our growth cohort. And this Interise program is perfectly fit. It perfectly fits right after our growth program. We continue to work with our Launch Lab growth companies through our Sustain program. And these companies are really in the process of beginning to scale their business. So as we have minority-owned businesses, which we work with about 65 to 70% minority-owned businesses through our programs, we have the opportunity to really continue supporting these businesses with another structured program, which we know works and has some amazing outcomes. So we're really thrilled to provide that next tool for companies that reach that level of true scalability with this existing program that's proven successful.
Thank you. Along that same line, Bernard, can you talk a little bit about what does the ideal company look like for the program?
Yeah, great question, Tracy. And so what we're looking for are business owners that have been around for about 2 years or more. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, it's really important that we are working with job creators and sustainers. So we're looking for that business owner also to have at least 1 employee other than themselves. Thirdly, these are business owners that are going to have revenues typically approaching or at the 6-figure level on up to about $10 million. And I'd say most importantly, really a commitment and a desire to grow effectively as a part of a cohort of business owners that are at similar places in terms of their development. So it's important that that business owner understands that they are also a part of a larger narrative, and they're working right alongside their fellow business owners as they're looking to scale and grow effectively.
Niketa, can you talk a little bit about the existing MBA portfolio companies and how they can connect into Interise, and also Leadership Greensboro, and how some of the other programs that we have connect in with the Interise program?
Yes, as I know, as Bernard mentioned, that they one of the things that they do is they work with established companies, and many of our portfolio companies are established companies. They have significant revenues, but there are still opportunity for them to build their capacity. And the Interise program gives them the opportunity to do that based on the curriculum. Certainly, any company can. Any minority-owned company can say that access to capital is a challenge for them. So understanding more financial management and resource management would certainly help even our portfolio companies who've already achieved some growth. So I think it'd still be very meaningful for those companies as well. We also have the opportunity within the chamber to work with a lot of different people in the business community, including in our Leadership Greensboro program, where we have people from diverse backgrounds, some who are legacy, who have legacy companies, who are CEOs, who are founders of their own organization, who I think could tie into the MBA program in a number of ways, including CEO mentoring, coaching, that type of thing. I think we could certainly continue to provide those connections between the two programs.
Right. Speaking of connections, that brings to mind our connections cohort. So for all of the folks who are listening in to the podcast, you know that we lost our dear EVP of Member Engagement, Kathy Lester, about a year and a half ago, and Kathy had built the Minority Business Accelerator. One of the things that we have done in honor of Kathy and in memory of Kathy was to form the Connections Cohort, and that is a group of 10 companies that need the extra one-on-one coaching, and so we've been providing that to that group of cohort members. We also give them a 1-year membership into the Chamber of Commerce, and they get very hands-on advice from the Chamber throughout the many different programs that we have. So we're very excited to see the Interise program come into fruition. We will have some of those cohort members will be ready to enter into that very first cohort for Interise, and the others will continue to work with us. So that is another really special connection that we get to see come together through the program. So we're very excited about that too. I'm glad Bernard mentioned Chattanooga. As we were looking at the partnership, one of the things that just kept popping up was what other markets, what other cities is the program offered in? And Interise partners, and Bernard can correct me if these numbers have probably gone up since the last time I wrote them down, but they have over 30 partners in over 110 communities. And as we started to look through that list, some of our good friends started to pop out immediately. So Niketa mentioned the intercity visit to Chattanooga. Well, Chattanooga was one of the first names that we saw. So that was definitely a positive. 2 years later, we visited Columbus, Ohio. Columbus is on the list. And then our last intercity visit location was Louisville, and Louisville also is on the list. The program was modeled after the Minority Business Accelerator program in Cincinnati, and by no surprise, Interise is also partnered in Cincinnati, so that's very exciting. Bernard, I know you guys also have partnerships with Greenville and with Charlotte. Can you talk a little bit about what makes those communities ripe for the program, and also what kind of community support makes those programs successful?
Yeah, that's a great lead in. And I'll start by saying, on a personal note, My parents are from Alabama. In fact, they marched in some of those famous Selma, Alabama marches. They both went to Selma University. And I grew up and I know the story about the Greensboro Four. So when I think about our footprint in the South, it was all intentional. And so I work with the city of Charlotte, and their, economic inclusion initiative came out of a disparity study that was done and had, the city of Charlotte really dead last as it relates to, being able to scale effectively as a business owner. And I really applaud them for creating a program that was designed to do just that. Similarly, when we look at Greenville, South Carolina, and their program at the Chamber, their Minority Business Accelerator, again, intentionally focused on raising the profile of those business owners and making sure that they have those connections that are key and paramount to success. So I look at Greensboro and this amazing team here with Tracy and Lou Anne and Niketa, and all the work that has already been done around identifying different pathways for business owners. I see something similar happening here, but it'll be, again, native to the population. And that's the unique part about what we do when we talk about collaborating. Yes, we have a curriculum in the program, but we also have the ability to design some key attributes at the local level that are really important and really pressing and need some attention to. So again, the South has been a very important part of our portfolio. We're partnered as well with the Commonwealth of Virginia for their small business supplier diversity program. Tracy mentioned our work that we do in Chattanooga with the National Urban League. We're partnered now in 4 cities in Tennessee, as well as with Tennessee Valley Authority. And, Greensboro is coming into, a marketplace for us that has been great in terms of really pushing the needle forward as it relates to scaling minority small business owners.
Niketa, could you tell us, as we talk about community involvement, could you talk a little bit about some of the other stakeholders that we've spoken with and ones that we hope will be engaged in the program?
Definitely. We're really fortunate in Greensboro to have a number of partners and stakeholders who I'm sure we will collaborate with. They include corporate partners such as Truist and VF Corporation, who've been there from the beginning and early adopters with us. So we have a number of other organizations that we'll also partner with, including Piedmont Business Capital, East Greensboro Now, our own internal connections cohort, as well as within Launch Greensboro, their Launch Lab Cohort and Launch Lab Sustainers, the Carolina Virginia Minority Supplier Diversity Council, City of Greensboro, as well as Guilford County.
Thank you, Niketa. Another question I think folks will be interested in knowing, because we have mentioned our cohorts and we've mentioned our minority business accelerator portfolio companies. When we start to think about what our first cohort in this program will look like, we know ideally we want to look at, maybe around 18 to 20 businesses. So are those going to be current MBA businesses, or are we looking at a completely new group of folks?
Certainly, some of those companies might include our MBA companies, but we're also looking at bringing in other companies within the cohort that are also established and looking to expand their capacity. So definitely.
Awesome. And Lou Anne, I know that you've got some folks who have gone through some of your programs that would be ideal candidates as well.
Absolutely. And I think they're excited to meet some new folks too. We have seen, and I know Bernard can attest to this, cohort building is amazing for businesses at similar stages. And so I'm excited to watch as these businesses at scale build relationships and support each other through this program. So I know our companies that we've worked with will be thrilled with that as well.
To build off what Lou Anne mentioned as it relates to the cohort, it's important to note a couple of different things. Number one, this program will work for really any industry. So it doesn't matter if you are running a landscaping business, or you're running a, doggy daycare. This program is designed for business owners that are a certain stage and scale. And that cohort model is important because of the ability to build community amongst yourselves. And so when we're thinking about really what's important here, we're creating these behavioral-based changes, and you're doing them in real time with other business owners that are going through the same challenges as it relates to what's keeping them up at night. Thinking about different ways to innovate around customer portfolio. And most importantly, making sure that you're creating the right types of strategy and reporting systems that are going to allow you to have a greater peace of mind and to be able to grow and scale effectively. So that community of practice that we create amongst our business owners and the cohort is really hugely valuable. So thank you, Lou Anne, for touching on that.
Agreed. I think one of the things that I am the most excited about is seeing some of our minority business accelerator companies that have really grown and just grown to the point that they will likely participate in the program as mentors or as coaches. And so I think this creates a really nice pipeline of individuals who will come in, they will go through this program, they will be part of the Minority Business Accelerator, or they may graduate out and be part of our existing industry and some of our councils. So it's just a very exciting path. And I think we have a lot of businesses that are all along that pathway already. And I think that's one of the things that I'm just really excited to see. Niketa, I know we would be excited to talk about this for hours and hours, but that doesn't make for the best podcast episode with folks' attention spans. But would like to ask, as far as the timeline goes, and for folks that are interested in learning more about participating in the program, could you tell us a little bit about how to contact you and when we expect to start?
Yes, so we'd love to start yesterday, but we will be recruiting in the next month. So please look for details about that soon if you're interested. Certainly, if there are companies who are interested in learning more now, they're more than welcome to reach out to me. My email address is my first name, first initial last name. That's Greene, N-Greene, at greensboro.org if you're interested. We hope to launch the program as well in the first part of the new year.
Niketa, I know you've been hard at work since September 1st when you stepped into this very big role, assessing where the Minority Business Accelerator is today and where it has the potential to go. I know you've also done the same thing in regards to the Chamber's overall diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. So could you really briefly give us an overview of how this fits in and some of the other things that we're working on?
Sure. Thank you, Tracy. Yes, I think in the last few months, we've, all of us, I think as a nation, have collectively realized that there is more work to be done as it relates to equity and inclusion. And as a prominent part of the community, I think those of us here at the Chamber realized that we needed to make sure we were a significant part of the work that needs to be done. So in addition to bring on Interise to help us to scale our Minority Business Accelerator Program and provide opportunity for more capacity for those businesses in our accelerator, we've also looked within our organization to see what things can we do here and what opportunities can we provide for the community at large to just become far more aware of equity and inclusion and to help to spark some dialogue in that regard. So we began by signing a community pledge that this is not going to be lip service, that we're going to have action oriented around our equity and inclusion efforts, that we're also going to join, in with other partners in doing so, that we're going to have open, honest conversation. We also led the city In our One City, One Film initiative, we encourage the city to watch the film The Hate You Give, and to engage with us in a dialogue around policing, around equity, systemic racism, those kinds of things. We had a phenomenal series of discussions with a diverse array of community partners over those 3 nights. We've also continued internally to look at ways in which we can improve as much as we can with regard to our own equity and inclusion policies. And we're testing things here. We've all taken implicit bias tests. We've done some amazing training with the Racial Equity Institute to make sure we have a common language regarding equity and inclusion as well. And we are continuing to assess those things, and we'll look to provide other recommendations to our companies that are within our membership regarding our efforts. So we've had an amazing start in the past few months, and I can only imagine how much more we can do in the next few.
Right. Niketa, I think I'm really glad you mentioned the community pledge. So for all of our friends who signed the community pledge, don't be surprised when I call you to follow up on that pledge with opportunities to support this program. We are thrilled that we will be able to offer this at no cost to the cohort members, and that will be done by securing sponsorship and support from community partners. We've mentioned Truist, we've mentioned VF Corporation. They were 2 of the very first to come on board with grants to support the program. So don't be surprised if I called you if you sign the community pledge. I think it was a great testament for all of those efforts, the partnership with the library. We had a lot of inquiries that came into the chamber from the work that has come out of Other Voices and out of the Minority Business Accelerator. This is something we've been involved in and have been passionate about for a long time. So I think that really spoke to that we had that outreach. Thank you, Niketa. Thank you, Lou Anne. Thank you, Bernard. I know we have many, many more hours of chatting offline, but it has been a great pleasure, and we are so looking forward to getting started. Thank you again, everyone who listened to the podcast today. And just remember, it's Med Week. So please seek out resources and education on minority businesses in our community and across the country. Thanks so much. Goodbye.
This podcast is brought to you by Truliant Federal Credit Union, a modern, mission-driven financial institution focused on the needs of its members, the businesses it serves, and our community. With 5 locations in Guilford County, including a dedicated commercial lending office at Friendly Center and a highly rated mobile banking app, Truliant makes it their business to help you grow yours. Visit Truliant.org for more information. You can find all of our episodes on YouTube thanks to our video sponsor, North State. Impact the Borough is recorded at Press Play Studios. Producers are Brody Cohen-Glaze and Holly West. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at GSO Chamber. See you next time.